What's up, everyone? Welcome to Austin for our very first Fantastic Fest interview. This is also my first Fantastic Fest, so you are my first Fantastic Fest interview ever.
Oh my goodness.
This is exciting. We're all first timers.
Jessica Garza, Dan Brown, congratulations on your lucky day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very, very good film. A good film that clearly I like. Our audience might not know about it yet. So Dan, I'm going to give this duty to you. Can you give everyone a brief synopsis of your movie?
Yeah, I'm really bad at this. So if it sounds bad, I think it's still a pretty good movie. The basic concept is a wealthier man wins the lottery. He does it right in front of somebody else who would like that money for himself, and he robs him. And then you sort of have like a, basically a hostage situation with everybody who was in the store at the same time. There's a cop who comes around the corner. Things just kind of spiral out of control. And we just sort of watch what people are willing to do for $156 million.
You got it. You got it. And all right. I feel like you should be good at giving a description of the scenario because this is something that went from short to feature film. And I had read in our press notes, I believe, that you said that there was a lot of interest in turning it into a feature after the short came out. What did that interest look like and why did you turn it down then?
Interest was like, it came out a while ago and like it's when the contained thriller was super hot. And so I was getting a lot of I got a lot of meetings asking for a feature, and the short has a very, I'm still very into tragedy, I guess, but this short, it was very much a tragic ending, and I didn't feel like I was like, well, what would I do with this? I would have to change this, I think. I don't think it would be satisfying in the same way as a movie. So I didn't want to just make a feature, I think, is part of it. So and then I had a completely unsellable script. I was like, let's make this thing. It was anti-war, everything. It was really a mess. But so it was kind of I just took a bunch of meetings and I just didn't feel like that was the right time. And maybe I think also some of just my own personal, I was kind of more hopeful about certain things, I guess, at the time, that things were going to get maybe a little bit better. And that some of the things that I felt like were really, maybe were going to be a little less relevant. And then it was clearly still very relevant. And I was like, felt like it was just growing in the back of my mind, watching things happening. And I was like, okay, I think there's a lot more I can do here. And that sort of gave me the kind of idea to be like, okay, I know how to make this work for me as a feature and how to kind of help flesh it out and make a story that I would be happy with.
Is there a specific thing in the feature version that you would call your break story idea? The thing that convinced you that yes, I do have a feature idea in this now? I
think the main one was that a rich person would win the lottery. That was sort of okay, that works. That I can make sense of as because before it was just a sweet old guy and he won a bunch of money. And I felt like that's a different feeling than someone who didn't deserve it, didn't need it, didn't want it. Then I just felt that has something to say. Okay. And I could see how that would make it more interesting and more powerful, I think. Great
success having relevant topics in a hugely entertaining thriller too. That's the ideal combination with something like this.
Thank you.
All right, Jessica. So he's a first-time feature filmmaker. There was a particular quote. I think, Dan, you said this in our production notes. If we could find a cast that would be interested in taking a chance on a director who had never made a feature, maybe it could happen. So for you, what was it about him in this script that made you think yep, this is a guy and material that's worth taking a chance on?
It was a pretty easy decision. Not one I had to spend a lot of time on. I read a lot of, not currently given the current state of the industry, but when we are up and running, I read many scripts in a week, and there are some easy no's sometimes. But Dan's script was definitely not a no. It was a yes. I was really interested in doing something different than past work, a challenge, getting down in the trenches and the dirt with you and everyone else, and really going for it. I also had seen a short film of his called Color TV No Vacancy, and I really loved it. It was so specific, and it had its own style and voice and point of view and perspective, and I knew Dan had stuff to say, and that's the most important thing, I think, when looking at these scripts or these newbies or first-time directors. I told Dan, I was like, don't you worry, I've seen there are people who are making their 10th feature and maybe they should stop. So the first-time one is not too scary when everything's on the paper and everything's in his brain and there's past work that backs him up.
I love seeing a first-time feature filmmaker tackle material like this, which with such clarity and authority. I feel like that's the ideal starting point, is knowing exactly what you're making and how to execute it. And I get the feeling that you did that here. I want to ask you about casting Jessica now, because another thing that I was reading was that her self-tape just blew you away. So what was it about her self-tape that set her audition apart from the other tapes you received?
I don't want to speak bad about anything else. I just like, it was just like a great tape. I was just looking, you know what I mean? And I had gotten great tapes in, but it wasn't quite right yet. And you had this one, it was just it had strength, it had vulnerability, it had all the elements that I was really hoping for. And then I just remember being very excited. And there's a story I shouldn't tell.
Well, now I want to hear it.
You can't go back.
Said that to me.
No, if it's about me, I really want to know.
No, because I think when you're making a movie and you have no backup really, and there wasn't a lot of money, and so I just sort of felt like you're kind of like an exposed person, I think, which makes sense. And like anyone could say no at any time. And I remember we had to audition with somebody else for a part, and I was like, oh no, I didn't, and he didn't work. Terrible human being, but
I feel a bit less bad because my manager was like, "How did that read go?" And I was like,
And it was, and I was like, "Oh no, does she think like that's her sting partner? Is she going to be like, is this like a no?" And it was just more, and so I was very nervous at that moment. I was like, "Oh, she's going to say no. She's going to think this is her co-star." And this is terrible. He's very good. It was just, they didn't have the right chemistry. Let's say that.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to get insight, a look behind the curtain at that process, because there is a significant amount of mixing and matching that goes on in order to find the perfect balance, which is what you do with your core ensemble in the film ultimately.
Oh, thank you.
I mean it.
We got really good offers too from like bigger names and stuff that were interested in it, but it was like offer only, and I wasn't going to do that and so it was just sort of, there was really good interest in the script, but it was just sort of, I wanted to see what you were going to do. And I remember even talking about, because I feel like you have this wonderful story I don't want to give anything away about the movie, but you go on like a journey that I was like, okay, I'm really excited about this part of it. We get to see an unexpected kind of hero come forward. I was really excited about that. It was like one of the ideas, again, when it became like an idea of a feature, that was the thing that cracked it. But the thing that before was always like, oh, I think there's something really fun. I watched my wife just have a natural birth, and like I was like, oh, this is an amazing, powerful thing. I want the hero, like she can do anything. There was like a part of her that switched over midway, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I haven't seen someone turn this into something. It's normally like a certain way they handle babies, and like really like in another movie, I think they'd be like, oh, and then she has the baby when it's really stressful. And you're like, but that's not actually how your human body works. That actually like your body won't let you have a baby when it's like in a stressful time. Like in, it's a good movie, but what's the one where she has birth in a bathtub? And this now I feel like I'm talking shit.
Emily Blunt.
Yes.
John Krasinski.
Quiet Place.
Yeah, yes. But like you don't. The body
I was thinking of a different one.
But it happens, right? And it's like that's like a. Anyways, I just felt like it'd be fun to have that kind of like powerful female character.
Yes.
And she's gonna take care of things and like kind of watch that person kind of rise from the background to the foreground. So I was really excited about that.
To build on that a little, Jessica, when you're jumping into filming this, what quality of hers were you most excited to get to play? But then also, what is something about her that wound up being more creatively fulfilling to tap into than you ever could have imagined?
Well, definitely to add on to what Dan said, the complexity of her and the way that she surprised me on the page is probably what interested me the most about her, and what I think will interest other people. All human beings are very complex, and especially when you're put into situations that are life or death. And I really resonated with her being okay to be vulnerable all the time, because I tend to be on the vulnerable side, but then I loved her also ability to put that in her pocket and survive and fight for what she believes in, for what she wants, what she needs in this life. all of those things. I maybe lost track of the question, but
no, those are all good qualities to highlight, and I think highlight the multitude of layers.
I would hope to be as strong as she is. Well, I don't want to give myself the credit there, but I think that's what really draws me into her, and I think what will draw in other people.
I did want to highlight Angus's wonderful work in the film, but actually more so something that I read in the notes about how he carried himself on set, which I think is something very special. Dan, you said this. He would openly celebrate everyone around him. So can you maybe each give me an example of a time on set when he celebrated you when you needed it, when you needed that source of confidence?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to take your story. Unless it's the same. It could not be. I just remember there's like a scene, and he's not in the scene. I can't talk about the scene, but he's not in the scene, really. But he's just sort of like kind of almost a background. He doesn't need to be there in some ways. And he was just like there, and he would like, we'd do a take, and he would like cheer everybody on and say that everyone was doing a great job. Like, I've never seen that before from anybody else where he was like, great job, everybody.
Yeah, was out there on set when he didn't need to be. It's easy to go back to your trailer or to go to get a snack or whatever the case may be. And he was always present and always not just willing, but excited to be there at 4 a.m, into hour 10 or whatever it was. And excited to work and to get to know people from me, a co-star, to Dan as director, to caterers, everyone on set, he knew their names and wanted to get to know who they were.
No better partner to have on a project like this, making any film for that matter. I'm a big believer that film cast and crews need to feel like a family because we pour everything we have into making these movies, and it's not easy. No. So I want to talk about more of the ensemble right now. Jessica, I'll give you this. Can you give me an example of a scene partner you had in this movie where your approach to the work was very similar, where the second you met, you were immediately in sync? But then I also want the opposite, someone with a different approach that challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new and for the better.
Okay. I am very lucky that me and my baby daddy, Elliot, we got along great. I can't tell you how many like silly photos and videos I have of me and him and my phone, and we're joking around and laughing, and it was great because we could do that in 1 second, and then the next second when the camera started rolling, we were ready to go for the next thing. And so we had great chemistry, luckily. And I hadn't met him before I know it was really risky. It could have been scary. Because we did not have a chem read or anything, but I lucked out because he's a great guy, and we just had similar the same flow. We operated in the same flow. Maybe someone who challenged me was actually Angus. He's so charismatic and so magnetic, but he was unpredictable sometimes, or would do something that I didn't expect, or that I, couldn't have guessed or wasn't ready for, and having to listen and be there and be present with him moment to moment and kind of let him take me for a ride was so much fun and different than maybe my approach was, could be a little bit more rigid, or it's all different, but it all worked out and it's all great.
That's making me think of a question that I love asking, because when you make a movie, you want to plan, and go into the production ready to get everything done. But sometimes when things go wrong, that unexpected magic you can find is better than anything you had originally planned for. So can you maybe give me an example of a day on set when things weren't going to plan, you found a good way to pivot, and a scene in the movie is better off for it?
I think actually I've told the story before, so I feel bad. But I think one of them was I had written a scene. Sort of Angus has this moment where he sort of, in the script, it was very like a generic version of what kind of an empty vessel of a human being would talk about. No, that sounds terrible, but you know what I mean. Like he wasn't like deep thinking in the script. He was more like a motor mouth, kind of like brash, and jumped into something. So he just sort of like listed off things that he would do if he was a millionaire, which is very generic. And that was sort of the point. And Angus was running the line, and it just wasn't working right. And he's like, I'm not really, and this was great, but Angus was like, and I think because we just had a good working relationship, it was easy to sort of shift it if it needed to shift, or sometimes I'd be like, oh, we can lose that line. He's like, no, I really want to keep that line. But this was one of those cases where like it wasn't working, and what he was saying wasn't connecting. So it was sort of, I remember him running the line. I remember even you saying like, he said, oh, live life like Pablo. And you're like, oh, that's great. So I was like, okay, I'll trust the room that's working right. And he just sort of like kind of did almost like a monologue that was all kind of his own. Some of it had been on the page, but most of it was just stuff he was making off. And really it was like he took what it was written kind of like in a weird, like just shifted it around a little bit. And then he added a bunch of stuff at the end that made it like poignant in a way that I hadn't kind of expected. And so that was really just kind of like a lovely moment where he like took the scene in a place and like portrayed like a sadness and a deepness that the character didn't have in that moment. And I felt like it was much stronger for that.
I am always eager to highlight unsung heroes on a film, and ADs are often the unsung heroes on a set who keep it up and running. And you said about Mitchie that Mitchie has an energy and a spark that you needed to push on through all this. So how did Mitchie do that, and what qualities does she have that you hope to see in more ADs in the future?
Well, she was just, she had a wonderful energy and then just a great kind of caring atmosphere about her, which is sort of definitely what I wanted as well. Yeah, this is where I don't need to die. There was another AD on for like a second and I was like, this isn't working, we need to find someone else. And he was only there for a day, and then thankfully we found Mitchie. And she was just sort of just this wonderful person. We were working on it. She was excited about the script. I remember going over to her house and like, all right, let's work on the schedule a little bit, because she came in a little late. So it was just sort of like, let's work on it together. And then she just had like, she just sort of really cared about what we were doing and what the process was going to be like. And she would, you know, I remember we had done some, like part of just like doing a small movie is like some stuff wasn't all the way done. We were working on the story still kind of while we were already shooting it.
I heard about the production designer too, and you stepped in and did a significant amount of work in that department
Yes,
as well.
But Mitchie was like, I was kind of, you know, you're just sort of, she's like, she started hanging tinsel around. She's like, you're making a Christmas movie. So she kept like that kind of thing. And then she would just be a fun person to have around on set and just sort of a real sweetheart that kind of, again, I think the exact kind of energy that I think the set needed. It was an intense shoot. It was a fast shoot. And to have someone who really so openly, again, I think caring, and she just really loved Angus too, and everyone got along with her.
She was efficient, but good at taking care of people, which, you know, is harder than you think to find both qualities in someone, and she had both.
I think sometimes that role can kind of take on like an adversarial, but they don't have to, and I felt like she did a really great job at like getting people together and keeping us on track and keeping things moving.
And like getting creative and, you know, having ideas and all the great things.
That's why I'll always take the opportunity to highlight an AD, because it is very, very challenging to find that balance between being efficient and getting work done, but also doing it with kindness and enthusiasm. So when I hear someone who can do that, I like to highlight them. Before I let you go, some silly questions about winning the lottery. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of these while you're here. I hope these are somewhat original. Okay, so the first thing, I'm putting you on the spot. You have to just like do what I say immediately after I say the thing. Okay. You win the lottery in a public place. Show me your reaction. Like on your face right now. That's it.
I don't know. Based off this, I would be very good.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. I feel like I wouldn't be able to contain myself, and I would give myself away in a heartbeat.
I feel, I guess I'm more of like that, kind of person where like I take it in really quick. And
I'd shut down.
I would shut down.
I feel like if it happened the way it happens in the movie, where it's so clear and accurate, I would have like a holy shit kind of reaction. But if it was on me to figure out if I won, I would just stand there with a blank stare on my face, like assuming I was wrong the whole time.
My first reaction, honestly, would be to check my phone and then to check it again and then to check it on someone else's phone and be like, is this real? And I would want to check it a few times.
Okay, so now you both win the lottery. Who is the first person in your life that you tell?
Definitely my mom. Definitely my mom. And then my dad. But yeah, those two.
Mine's easy. It's my wife. So I would just go.
Okay. Smart answers. Both right answers. All right. You win the lottery. You can buy an unlimited supply of your favorite thing in the world. What are you buying?
Hot Cheetos.
I respect that answer so much.
That's a great answer.
That was the first thing that came to my brain, and I couldn't think of anything else to lie about. That's the truth.
I don't know if this is exactly what your question was, but I would probably buy like international travel tickets.
No, that counts.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think I'd love to go around the world. That would be
so
like the
much
first.
more.
I was gonna say
better than mine.
Like my mind went down that route. Like I would just buy, and this is the dumbest answer I could give. I would buy a lifetime supply of Whole Foods peanut butter, but it's fresh. Like the point why I like it is it's fresh ground, so it would go bad. So I don't know. That wouldn't work.
There's just so much daily guilt we all have getting our snacks. You know, it's like, I know I don't need this snack, but I want this snack. And so if I could get rid of my day-to-day guilt about snacks.
It's also the mentality that I need to know that I have an absurd amount of my snacks so it will never run out. So that is like my dream question that I would want to be able to answer if I won the lottery. All right, last one here. You can finance the dream project of your choice. What is that project?
One I would be in, or one that I just would love to see?
You have all the power in the world.
Get all this money.
The first thing that comes to my head, because that's all I'm going off instinct here, is Kill Bill 3. I would just love to see that. I know that's kind of like a fanfic kind of dream and hope and wish that I know, we're not, is not happening. But I just would love to see what that would look like with the daughter coming back and seeing Uma Thurman on the screen again. All those things.
Answer.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
I'm sure there's plenty of money to do that if there's interest in it. So I don't know. But I don't know.
He's interested.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Now I'm
Which is
thinking
totally
about
fair.
a million projects that I want to bring back. I can name drop quite a few. I would finance another season of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Ooh. I feel like that's a good Fantastic Festy answer.
Oh, that reminds me. I would do The Newsroom, the HBO.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
choice too.
Yeah, I miss that show,
watch more of
especially in
that.
this time. You know what I mean? Of Crazy World that came out in 2012 or something like that. So much has changed.
Oh, that's for sure. What you got for us, Dan?
Dream project. Let me think. Was that too loud?
You need an answer to this question now. You come to a festival with a really hot feature debut. You got to be ready to go.
Well, I have a movie that I want to do next, which is it's called The Afterlife. It's about two brothers who escape a suicide cult, and then there's like a genre twist on it. I think it's really exciting. But if I had all the money in the world, maybe it would. This is maybe a nerdy answer, but I would like to do the Slaughterhouse-Five. That book is just amazing, and I love Kurt Vonnegut, and I love the. It just feels like the way your memory works, right? Where like you're living your moment right now and your head's somewhere else. I just felt like it's a wonderful book that I'm obsessed with. So.
All good answers. All good answers. If I win the lottery, I'll come back and I'll finance your next feature.
Wonderful.
Your next feature will get financing. It will happen because what we do in the Collider interview studio is we manifest things. So your next movie is going to get financed, and also everyone out there is going to see Your Lucky Day because, again, I mean it sincerely. The movie is excellent. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.